We are live. It's over to you, Tyler.
Okay. Well, we've still got a couple minutes here before 7. Let's give it a minute or two. You making funny faces, Darren? Okay, close enough. You guys ready? Let's do it. Okay. So Zoom meeting edition 27 or wherever we're at on these. So I got a copy of the agenda in front of us. One change is an in camera for personnel for tonight. Any other changes to the agenda?
No,
If
sir.
not, I would entertain a motion. Okay, to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you, Councillor Busk. Everybody in favor? Looking for some hands. Mr. Ferguson, he says yes. Okay, we're good. Okay, so first off, we got an introduction. Excited that we have another public works operator. Welcome to Aaron Bone. And we've got minutes of our previous meeting on page 4 in our package from April 21st. Any issues? Councillor Busk?
Not so much a real issue, just when on the first page there, missing that E, there's a space in the date, 134-20.
Okay. Missing a space in the date?
There's a space, yeah.
Your worship, that should not be there in the resolution, so we'd ask that you amend that and it'll be taken off the minutes.
Okay. So amended. Anything else? If not, motion to accept as amended by Councillor Busk. Thanks. All those in favor? Carried. We're good. Okay, so CAO update, Mr. Lundy.
You have your update stuff. I don't have a whole lot to add to it. In one of our council meetings, we talked about the capital equipment. There was only 3 pieces left to purchase. Gary will be bringing the Zamboni to the next meeting. And my question is, if council wants to hang tough on the other 2 pieces, knowing that our street sweeper is old and it regularly visits the mechanic, my suggestion is that we proceed with those 3 additional purchases.
These are additional purchases, but they're budgeted for.
They're in the capital budget.
Okay. I don't have an issue if you're recommending we do. When we looked at those things, these are old pieces of equipment, and part of the reasons that we're doing them is because some of them we were having trouble getting parts and things for them. So, whether we do it right now or we do it in the fall or we do it next year, I don't think we're going to save any money there. So that's my 2 cents. I'm hearing nobody speaking against that, so I would say go for it.
So I'm open to any other questions that council may have.
Okay, other questions from council? Councillor King.
Just a quick comment. I had sent a message to Gary earlier today, just reiterating how great the trails look. I take the trails every day now. They were pretty bad, and there was an army of town crew out there. yesterday working, and it was a pleasure to go down them today. They were fantastic. They look great.
Perfect. Gary, I had a question for you too there in regards to, we had somebody ask about Summer Splash and programming and that sort of stuff. So I think for my own clarity here for communication, so officially we've closed our facilities until the end of May, or are we at the end of June? What's our official one?
Until June 1st, it was.
June 1st, okay. Programming right now will be evaluated on case by case as we move forward and naturally impact those dates. So example, I know we've closed, we've canceled, well, Chamber of Commerce did the Riverboat Days, and we did Canada Day celebrations are canceled. Somebody had a question about Summer Splash.
So we're just in the process of still evaluating. The Alberta relaunch strategy did say day camps can proceed with restrictions, but we don't know what those restrictions are. So it's a matter of trying to find that out, find out more information. I've been in contact with the government a couple of times already, and I think that's still a bit of a project in the works. But as soon as we have more information, we will be formulating a plan. We have a plan on how to relaunch all our facilities and what it takes to get going, and we'll share that with council over the next meeting or so.
Okay. So like the rest of the world, we evaluate everything every week and learn from it and keep moving forward.
That's right.
Okay. For Brandel and then Councillor Busk.
Are we hiring summer students this year for like grass cutting and stuff, or is that what the MRC staff is going to be doing?
So the MRC operations crew always switches over to parks, and then we have 2 staff from the front desk that will be switching over to parks as well. And one of the challenges with all our crews is trying to figure out a way to have this so they can work and still meet all the distancing requirements and so on. So we were going to be trying to manage it within our permanent staff only, because we also, we know that workloads and things have shifted around quite a bit. And so, no, we weren't going to be moving forward with hiring summer students this year.
Okay, Councillor Busk.
So I see that the pool is being shut down for drained and going to be doing their repairs. What's the timeline on that? When do we expect to have that back up? Best case scenario, if the government goes with their stages, would that facility be open for when that stage finally hits?
Well, that stage is definitely the last stage, is where the pools and large recreation facilities fall into their plan. No dates have been set by the government on that. We just want to be ready for whenever that comes along. We do know that it'll take us 2 to 3 weeks from when we know that we can go ahead to be actually opening, just because, we have to, finish cleaning, but there's also a bunch of things in terms of health inspections and water quality and all that have to take place, as well as making sure our staff are trained and ready to go. Long story short, it's about a 2 to 3 week window. So we're really hoping that we have a little bit of advance notice. The government would say, for example, August 1st, you guys can probably plan to start opening by September 1st. But that would be perfect in an ideal world, but I'm not sure how that's going to unfold.
Because we'd have to give our staff and stuff like that notice that this facility is going to be opening to get everything in place for hiring them as well back, right? So
that's correct. We have to give 7 days notice for anybody who's on a temporary layoff. We also have to complete any cleaning tasks, although that is a lot of that work is being done while we're closed and shut down. Refill the pool, heat up the water, balance it out in terms of pH, get water samples off to the province, go through any health inspections, and that type of thing. And that's actually all normal to starting up a pool, even after shutdown. It does take time to do that. Just that we typically have a plan as part of our shutdown process for that.
But to be clear, you're doing some of your annual shutdown stuff that you do in September. You're going to do that now.
That's right. So that our intent is that as soon as we can get the pool back up and running, we're not going to have to shut it down again.
Okay. Any other questions from council? This is more like the Gary Roth update than the CAO update, but that's okay. If there's nothing else, let's jump into reports and new business. So the first one is bylaw 10/2020 in our package on page 14. This is a first reading of a resident/business initiated bylaw. So they're wanting to make some changes. And so as per process, the next step would be to set a public hearing. And at that point, we'd debate it after that information was collected. So we don't debate first readings of ones that are initiated by the public. And so with that, I would entertain a motion from council. This is the really exciting part where one of you gets to speak. Councillor Busk.
Make a motion that bylaw 10/2020 to amend section 104 of the land use bylaw 22/2007 receives first reading and the required public hearing be scheduled for June 2nd, 2020.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? There's like a lag in my screen here, so you got to hold up your hands longer. Ready, set. Ready, set. Ferguson, there we go. Councillor King, yes, perfect. I got them all. Sorry, probably my internet. So that's carried. Next, though, we've got first reading on one of our own. Talk about Fire Smart. So this will be interesting. I'll turn this over to Lori Skrenik, our Director of Planning and Development, for a comprehensive review.
Okay, Your Worship and members of council, bylaw number 9/2020 represents amendments to the land use bylaw for Fire Smart regulations. So back in December of 2018, we applied for a grant and received one from FREA, $30,000 to add regulations to the land use bylaw with respect to Fire Smart. So in March of 2019, we entered into a contract with Green Space Alliance and we started that process. We had a delay last summer with respect to the high-level evacuees and the wildfire situation in northern Alberta, as most of our Fire Smart experts were already engaged. So we put things off for the summer months, started back up in September of 2019, and held our first and second focus group session. We stopped again in December for Christmas break and restarted again in January of this year. March 3rd, we held our third and final focus group session. Consensus, I believe, was reached on the final draft of Fire Smart regulations. And then we saw the first case of COVID come into the province, which changed the way we operate. So things have been on a delay since that point. The purpose, we're introducing the bylaw to council for first reading. We are not setting a date for a public hearing at this point. It will be something we bring back later when we've had more time and maybe open house for the public if we decide to go that way. So I've attached the bylaw. All the items that are shown in red on bylaw 2009-2020 have been added to existing regulations. And I can go through these fairly quickly for you and then answer some questions when we get there. So the first amendment is an amendment to section 3 of the bylaw and adds definitions with respect to Fire Smart. So just a few things to clarify what we mean by some of those definitions we're adding. Second amendment is to section 13(1)L of the bylaw and makes reference to development permit application requirements and other special requirements specific elsewhere in the land use bylaw. And adds references to the Fire Smart regulations in section 36C. The third amendment is to section 13(8), adds regulations so that the development authority may require a developer to undertake and submit a wildfire risk assessment as part of subdivision or development of land. The fourth amendment is to section 13(9)K, which is variance of standards, and requires that where a variance results in a side yard setback of less than 1.2 meters for a principal dwelling or 0.6 meter for an accessory building, that the applicant will be required to meet the requirements of the Alberta Safety Codes Act and section 36C Fire Smart regs. The fifth amendment is to section 24(2), which is the relocation of buildings, and adds regulations stating that the development authority may require a wildfire risk assessment if necessary. The Sixth Amendment is to Section 3110, which is the subdivision of land regs. Adds regulations stating that the Development Authority may require a wildfire risk assessment as a condition of subdivision approval if necessary. The Seventh Amendment is where we put all the meat and potatoes with respect to Section 36C Fire Smart Regs. So I'll just give you a brief outline of each of the subsections. Subsection 1 requires the Development Authority to refer to the Fire Smart Development Areas map for subdivision and development applications. So we need to look at it and evaluate the application based on that map. Subsection 2 allows the Development Authority to include conditions and standards that exceed those indicated in the Fire Smart Regs. Subsection 3 allows the Development Authority to require the developer to remove wildland fuels if necessary. And that would really be outlined in a wildfire risk assessment if it came out that fuels needed to be removed. Subsection 4 allows the Development Authority to require that all new developments have Class A roof material, which includes asphalt shingles. Subsection 5 requires that all new developments shall separate coniferous trees by a buffer of 8 meters and be located a minimum of 7 meters from any structure. And again, these are for new developments, new subdivision. Subsection 6 sets out regulations for new developments that are susceptible to wildfire hazards and are located within the Fire Smart Development Area A. That wildfire risk assessment may be required. And for those located in Development Area B, that a wildfire risk assessment shall be required. All wildfire risk assessments shall include recommendations on hazard mitigation, and recommendations may be completed as part of the subdivision or development and may also be included as conditions within the subdivision and development approval. Subsection 7 sets out regs wherein the Development Authority shall impose conditions of development for new developments that are susceptible to wildfire hazards, requiring establishment of a 1.5 meter non-combustible zone around the perimeter of all structures. Also, landscaping within that 1.5 meter non-combustible zone shall meet Fire Smart Canada references, and all fencing shall be constructed within this area only, shall be constructed of fire-resistant materials. Subsection 8 sets out requirements where, if demonstrated in a wildfire risk assessment, that a proposed development in Area A is susceptible to wildfire, that the exterior siding, decks, porches, and balconies may be constructed of fire-resistant materials, and for subsection 9, in Area B shall be constructed of fire-resistant materials. So that's the meat and potatoes of subsection 36C. Number 8 adds section 36D, which is the Fire Smart Development Areas map. And then the remainder of the amendments, 9 through 13, is adding regulations with respect to landscaping and references to section 36C of the Fire Smart Regs. So multifamily dwellings, commercial, industrial, and special districts such as institutional. And that's sort of it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Okay, questions from council. So I'll start out and say this was a very comprehensive review. And Lori, do you want to just speak real quick about the fact that some of the members that we brought together, the stakeholders to put this together?
Yeah, as part of the focus group sessions, we did put together a stakeholders list. They were representative of Fire Smart experts, so Alberta Environment, our local fire chief, and Fire Smart individual.
As well as some of our elected officials and that sort of thing. So I just want to say it was a comprehensive group that came together to talk about that. So with that, sorry, we'll jump into questions, and Councillor Brandon wants to start off.
So Lori, you said these are for new developments, or are they for new development permits? So if someone applies for a permit, are they going to be open up to these new regs?
No, they're intended to be for developments that are in development areas A and B, which are well, it's development area A includes all of the town, but it would not be imposed unless it was a new subdivision.
Okay, so only for new subdivision.
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of the discussions we had with the focus group, is that, for instance, Gloryland, I think there's 1 or 2 lots left that haven't been developed on, that we wouldn't impose that on those remaining 2 lots, but any new subdivisions south of Highway 2 in Area B definitely would be subject to under the subdivision development permit approval process. Now, if we had a new subdivision go in, let's say Sarge Park Estates, then these regulations would apply there as well. But they would be in subsection Area A, so they're not nearly so restrictive as they are in Area B, if that makes sense.
So the big the big philosophies obviously that are in here, and the ones I struggle with the most, being one of the people that sat on this group, was that you have, you know, although the entire town is within this forest, there are areas that are within town, and there's some areas that are basically you can reach out and touch the forest. And so the stuff that's right in town, we're going to encourage some fire smart principles and things that will go on. There's some minor tweaks that we'll make, but you know, the substantial change of stuff that's really knocking on the forest back door that we can reach out and touch. With those new subdivisions that come in, there's going to be some must-haves that you need to do to make sure that we've got some fire smart protection in place. And so, you know, I really struggled with the costs of this as we go along. To, you know, if we're being candid, I would be the biggest stick in the mud in this whole fire smart discussion as we move forward. Because I struggle with the cost of doing things. We want to promote development. We want to promote things going on. But I will say, I do have to recognize that we live in a forest. We're living proof that things happen. And we need to make some tweaks there. And I think this is a start in that right direction. That being said, some of this is going to require some good community discussion. And so I'm glad that we're just doing first reading tonight, and that we're going to take some more of this to public as we can to get some feedback before we 100% put this in ink to pen here. Councillor Ferguson.
I'd have to say that I do agree with Mayor Warman's assessment. I am especially concerned about some of the costs of doing some of this. You know, when I built my house, I built my house fire smart, but, you know, I also realized that comes at an additional cost. And for my house, it ended up being about an additional $35,000 to build my house fire smart. And you know, there's going to be a lot of public input and discussion that we need to have here, but I just don't know if I could, I struggle with asking residents to pay, you know, that much more for development. So that's just kind of my take on it. I'm more of the mindset that this bylaw should be more of educational focused. It's my 2 cents.
Okay. Other comments, questions? If there isn't, Councillor Busk.
So Lori, for clarification now, is this something that's being mandated for all the boreal forest areas, or is this just Slave Lake's fire smart practices? What's the overall consensus? Are we creating the wheel, or are we following best practices throughout Canada? What's the deal?
I would say, you know, back in 2011 and 12, when we were first talking about it, we were definitely out ahead of other municipalities. We didn't impose anything at that time, but we are no longer out ahead of I would say we're following best practices and what other municipalities are doing, not leading the charge by any sense.
Other questions, comments? Councillor King.
I was just going to make a motion
Go ahead.
that bylaw 09/2020 to amend various section of the land use bylaw 22/2007 with respect to fire smart receive first reading.
Other discussion? If not, call the question. Those in favor? Sorry, guys, there's a huge lag here. Half of you aren't even have a hand up yet. Those in favor, please hold your hand up. I still can't, for some reason, see Councillor Brandel. There we go. Perfect. Okay, and those opposed? Anybody opposed?
Councillor Ferguson.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, guys. This has this big long leg. So that still is carried, and we'll keep moving forward. Flipping back to my agenda here. Okay, next one is Gary Roth on page 37 in our package.
Yes, good evening. I'm here to present to you a housekeeping type policy for enforcement services standard operating procedures. As I'm sure you know, the Alberta Solicitor General's Department requires community peace officers or employers of community peace officers to have either a policy or procedure in place for a number of topics. It's also kind of in the town's best interest as an employer to have procedures for their officers to follow to provide guidance and advice for them. Up until recently, the policies have been passed and approved by the director level, which is inconsistent with where municipality typically operates, where policies are approved by council and procedures are approved by the CAO. What we wanted to do was bring forward a policy to formalize their procedures. The procedures would be called standard operating procedures. They'd be approved by the CAO going forward, and also the Solicitor General's Department where they need to sign off on them for certain topics. And from there on, both myself and Mark Becker are going to be working on a little project to review all the standard operating procedures, make sure they're current and up to date and on task. So my recommendation is that you approve the policy that's before you.
Okay, discussion. If not, motion.
Council approves the policy for the enforcement services standard operating procedures.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? I'm going to go with, I can't see Councillor Brundle, but I'm guessing we're okay. I would say we're carried. Yes, now it shows. And I apologize because if I log out of this and log back in, my Wi-Fi might get better, but of course then we have to redo this whole thing. And I think technically we're not supposed to have a meeting after that because it's not been proper for the public. So we'll just suffer through here because we're getting towards the end. Next. We've got one for road rehabilitation. It says Roland Schmidt here. But it looks like you're going to co-do this with somebody else.
Rowan should be here, Your Worship. He was.
He's there.
Yeah, I'll do the, if there's any, I guess, technical questions on the actual road project itself, Kush can answer those, and I'll just kind of quickly go through the report there,
Okay.
through the funding and the purpose of the report there. So the purpose is just to bring, should council wish, an amendment to the 2020 capital budget to include an additional road rehabilitation project that would include various sections of town roads. Just a little bit background. We haven't budgeted for this in the normal procedure, and in our operating budget, we hadn't increased it, and we kept our normal $100,000 for road repairs. Over the past winter here, we've seen considerable damage on town roads due to the fact that we are pushing back Gloryland roads. There may be additional time to pursue some additional road rehabilitation in the town. Kush and Calvin went and did an on-site inspection of potholes and some deteriorating road conditions throughout the town, and prepared a list which is attached to this report. The total areas identified to repair them would cost $706,000. I reached out to our grant funding people, and we have $391,000 in a BMTG grant, Basic Municipal Transportation Grant, that we had received in 2014 that has yet to been applied to a project, and this is a project that we could definitely apply for. So if council wanted to move forward with an additional road rehabilitation program. We could do so using this fund without impacting our future road projects as laid out in our 5-year capital plan.
Okay.
And with that, I'd entertain any questions.
And so, Roland, to be clear here too, that this money in the BMTG, this $300 and some thousand, this was money that was previously unallocated that recently got released.
No, this is
isn't
money.
part of our capital plan.
This is not part of our capital plan, no.
Right. So by doing this, we are not taking a hit somewhere else. I guess that's my point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, so I mean, additionally, we could use this funding for road projects. I had not used this specific set of funding in the 5-year capital plan for that, but it was definitely there. Should the capital plan change or any other additional items come up, this could be used to subsidize roads or utilities. However, we identified this project, and we could go ahead doing this without impacting the 5-year capital plan with the roads laid out up to the 391. Now, if you wanted to go above and beyond that, we probably have to take an additional look at the 5-year capital plan and maybe do a little bit of tweaking.
Okay, Councillor Brandel.
So Roland, on your list here, and your recommendation is to approve the up to 391. So there's only 2 things on the list that say that they need more budget. So is everything on the list up to like 1 to 13 on the 391? I'm not sure what the 391 entails.
The 391 would be up to, so again, when we go ahead with the project and Calvin and Cush, I think they would have to, more identify which roads they feel that they could get completed with the 391 and go and proceed with those projects there. So they listed a whole bunch here of all the ones that they've identified, and the goal there would be not to do all of them because it costs $706, but to do as much as we could for 391 and leave it at that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so to be clear, it's 391 though plus 100,000. So normally every year we budget $100,000 for spot repair stuff that's over and above like pothole stuff. This is like, hey, we got a bigger patch. Let's call it patch, which is different than fixing a pothole. And so we've got this 391 of BMTG, but we're going to use 100,000 of our normal pot there to basically make this pot 491. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
where we can, where the projects are applicable for the $100,000, we would definitely match that to the applicable grant funding and get get better bang for your buck if you're going to do it all in one go this year.
Okay, Councillor Busk.
So I know when we talked about this originally, when we were, I guess, scaling back on projects and stuff like that, concern was not only for cash flow, but also how our contractors would meet the social distancing guidelines and the rest of that stuff. So with these 13 projects, are we just telling or whatever you pick out of those that the social distancing will be able to be done, even though it's similar to what per se Gloryland Roads would have used, paving, construction, stuff like this?
So I'll let that over to Kush.
Yeah, I could definitely answer that.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So usually for Gloryland, for such a huge project, there is usually a bigger crew. But for like small sections of road, resurfacing, patching, usually they could accommodate smaller crew on that. And I believe, these all sections have been laid out on different like quadrants of the town. So usually what they will do is they will send a milling team who will come. They will try their best to keep social distancing as per Alberta Construction Association's guideline. They will go through all these patches which we approve, fits in our budget. So they will mill it, then put a barricade around, then the base team will come. They will remove all the base, and still leave the barricades on. And then at the last, paving team will come with paver, and they will start paving all those spots. So I believe these individual spots located in different quadrant would be able to be completed with smaller crew, and they would be able to. Oops, did we lose Mayor?
No, I'm still here. I was
Okay,
turning off
okay.
my video to see if it would less buffer here.
Oh, okay, okay. So as I said, like if it's a smaller crew, then I'm pretty sure we'll be able to maintain the distancing guideline.
Okay. Other questions? I'm seeing no hands, so I'm assuming there aren't any. I have a question for Gordon. So, one of the things is about being strategic here. And so the question I would have is that there's an expectation that in the coming weeks ahead, there potentially could be some support from provincial and federal governments to partner on projects. Are we more strategic to wait to see what happens with that before we move ahead with this?
We still have to wait for approval from transportation for the 391.
Okay.
I was hoping that we've heard the first announcement from Alberta Transportation, although we're not getting any of that money in our area, other than pothole fixing. So I don't know when they will release those funds. And to me, the first people out to the contractors will be the ones that probably get the first choice on prices. So you can either wait or we can just push forward and.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll say is I still don't see any other questions, and it's probably still buffering because I don't know. I apologize in advance. But I will say that I feel comfortable moving forward on this. This is a lot in regards to patching. This isn't major infrastructure investment. This is fixing really bad areas. I think we have a number of projects that we can use for that municipal portion, partnering with provincial and federal governments if they come out, but just want to have it stuck on the radar there. So I'm comfortable to move ahead. That's my thought. Other questions, comments, hands? Councillor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go for it.
To amend the 2020 capital budget and fund up to $391,437.
That will be funded through the use of the MTG.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5 hands, 6 hands. Perfect. Carried. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Next one is Gordon. You've got some date for our initial meeting with our economic development group that we've hired on page 47 in our package.
That's correct. I am currently still talking to her about the contract, and in behind there would be timelines and different projects which she has laid out previously when she made her proposal. I have been in touch with the funding agency as to possibly extending our contract past March of 21, because we don't see Lisa starting her work until end of summer, beginning of fall. So we need some additional time added to that. And this meeting is to review the contract and the conditions of the contract with council and Lisa.
Right. And so for everybody's benefit of the public, the thousands of people that are watching us right now, I will say that, council had a vision to invest in the economy, and we had some discussions there as we move forward. We were going to hire some experts to kind of help us through that, and we've had some debate on whether we should still be doing that with COVID going on or not going. And the majority have said, the economy is probably going to need our help more than ever, and so getting a strong foundation to start out with and being one of the first ones out of the gate to do some of that promotion is probably a good start. So that coupled with, we were successful getting a $55,000 grant from the provincial government to do some of this stuff, definitely incentivizes us to keep moving forward. And so what I will say is, sorry guys, I'm looking here because sometimes his hands keep cutting off. So council, we're sending text there as well here to make sure I don't miss anything. So it's my understanding that the morning of the 21st, we have some issues, but the 22nd sounds like it would be okay. So I'd make a motion that council schedules a meeting, discuss the agreement for economic development of Slave Lake with Progress Unlimited on May 22nd, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? One hand, two hand, three hand, four hand. One hand, three hand, three hand, four hand.
6.
Still 6. There you go. Boss says 6. That is carried. Okay, Mayor's Corner. What's going on? So obviously big excitement last week. Phase 1 reopening. What does that mean as we move forward? Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Phase 1. What does that mean as we move forward? And the big question is lots to figure out. So over the next week, we'll see stuff start to roll out. Lots of questions from businesses. What should I be doing? What are the regulations in regards to my business? What are the health requirements? And the messaging coming from the province focuses around the fact that, listen, we don't have it all figured out. We're going to give you some guidelines, but realistically, the best advocate for how you should do this with your business is probably going to be you. And so I did a video update on that this evening that really stressed the point of, the best. We should really be pushing this from a business standpoint of, health and safety. And so I'm not saying that we ever undervalued health and safety in our business model, but to say it is the main focus as we move forward is a strong statement. And so our customers, we're going to have extremes in our customers that some are on one side of the spectrum and some on the other. And so as we move forward through this, I would just stress to businesses that use common sense, figure out how you can look after the health and well-being of your guest as well as your staff the best, and you will probably be the best expert to carry that out. Fire pits, definitely still get daily questions about fire pits. Can I have a fire? Can I not have a fire? Today was the first day we saw that the fire ban or the fire advisory, we went to high. And so in discussions, the fire chief, he is monitoring that daily, and as he feels the need to change that, we will change that. It is being looked at daily. We are taking it very seriously. Right now, still confidence in the fact that you can have a fire in your backyard if you're using some common sense for that. I expect that this could change in the future in the coming days. Part of the problem is Mother Nature keeps saying she's going to give us rain, and then she keeps pushing it off. So things have gotten really dry really fast. From a couple weeks ago, we were joking about how could you have a fire ban because it's 4 feet of snow. So we'll see what the world has in store. Council continues to fight passionately for our highways in coordination with the MD and even help with our Ozark First Nation. Sorry, I got to move in my office so the motion light goes off. We continue to fight for that. And so we've been advocating hard to them at these office. There's some announcements coming out. We've seen some initial stuff that doesn't really give us a lot of hope, but there's supposed to be more announcements throughout this week. So I haven't given up yet. We continue to fight for that. Also, council's been busy with some stuff with CAO interviews. And so we're still on our quest to find our permanent CAO. Gordon's been doing a fantastic job, but he said, I'm not here forever. And so we have to respect that and figure something out. We've got some candidates that are actually coming up to meet with us in person. We've got a room set up for some social distancing. We're going to get into some really in-depth things. This is the third round of interviews with these individuals. We'll be doing that this week and even doing a little tour of them through the community because it's really important for us that we find the right fit for us. So with that, that's what's been happening in the world of the mayor. As my screen is still frozen and I still see half of your hands up, I will understand that the buffer really sucks on my end. But the next portion is to go in camera, in which case we are logging out of this and logging into another Zoom portal for our in camera that's been sent to you. If you guys don't have it, shoot me a text and I will email it out again. And we'll jump on that in about 5 minutes. Joanna will set that up. As my screen is half frozen, I hope you guys are hearing all this. Anybody want to do a motion to go in camera? I have no hands.
I'll make a motion to go in camera.
Perfect. Mr. Lundy, can you verify we've got, I'll call the question, all in favor?
Yes, you have a positive vote.
Okay. Okay, we are going in camera. Thanks, guys. We'll be jumping out of this meeting into the next one. Thanks for all those that watched.